The city was forgotten, not by time nor by fate, but by the world itself. The maps called it a myth. The elders, in hushed voices, called it cursed. And yet, for those who dared to enter, it had a pull, like the distant sound of a bell echoing through a foggy night, impossible to ignore. I first heard its name whispered on a night when the rain refused to stop, and the streets of my hometown were empty. Old men at the tavern muttered it over cups of bitter tea. Aruvela, the forgotten city. They said the people who had tried to find it never came back. Or if they did, they were not the same. Curiosity, they say, is a dangerous thing, but it is also irresistible. I had to see it. The journey began with nothing more than a single tattered map I had found in the attic of an old relative. The paper was brittle. The ink faded into brown streaks. But the city's outline was unmistakable. Jagged streets, a great central tower, and a symbol that looked like a twisted eye staring back at me. I left at dawn. Mist hung low over the fields, swallowing the horizon like it was protecting some secret. Each step forward felt heavier than the last, as though the land itself tried to warn me away. By midday, the sunlight no longer felt warm. It felt forced, hesitant, as if it too feared what lay ahead. As I approached the outskirts of Aruvela, the first thing that hit me was silence. Not ordinary silence like a quiet room, but the kind of silence that presses against your ears and lungs, the kind that feels like it could suffocate thought itself. Birds did not sing, trees did not sway, even the wind seemed to pause mid-breath. The streets of the city were deserted. Buildings stood like tombstones, blackened by age and something else, something I couldn't name. Windows were shattered, doors were ajar as though welcoming intruders, or warning them. Graffiti, decades old, peeled off the walls. Words scratched into stone in jagged, desperate handwriting. Do not stay. The city watches. And yet, I could feel eyes. Not human eyes, but something else. Waiting in the dark corners, flickering in the reflection of broken glass. I told myself it was paranoia. I told myself I had traveled far enough to witness the remnants of a city abandoned by its people. But the shadows moved, just at the edge of vision, and every step I took echoed too long. I found the first house by accident, or maybe by design. Its doorway was black as pitch. The air around it smelled of damp soil and something metallic. I remember pausing on the threshold, hearing a whisper that was not my own. Come in. The voice was a child's, but not innocent. Hollow and hungry. I stepped inside. The interior was smaller than it should have been. Furniture sagged like it had been soaked in water for decades. A single painting hung crooked on the wall. It depicted a family, smiling, ordinary, but their eyes were black voids. And the child in the painting, it seemed to blink as I moved. I spun around, expecting someone to be there. Nothing. Only the sound of my own heart thrashing against my ribs. And then I heard it again. Do not leave. Hours, or perhaps minutes, passed. Time moved strangely here. Shadows grew longer, yet the sun outside had barely dipped. I wandered through the city, each street more twisted than the last. Alleys looped back on themselves. Towers seemed to stretch impossibly high, and everywhere I felt the same gaze pressing on me. Then I found the square, the city's heart. A fountain stood in the center, but it was dry, cracked. At the base were figures carved into stone, people frozen mid-action, mouths open in silent screams. Some wore expressions of terror, others of joy. The mixture was unsettling, grotesque, and at the center of the fountain, carved into stone, was the twisted eye, the same as on my map. I reached out, and the air went cold. A voice spoke inside my head this time, clearer than before. You sought us. Now you belong. I stumbled back, nearly falling. And then, for the first time, I saw them. Figures emerging from the shadows, thin, elongated, faces hidden under hoods. They moved silently, circling me like vultures. Their hands were pale, unnaturally long. Each step they took made the ground whisper. I tried to run, but the streets had changed. Doors led nowhere, alleys twisted back to the square, and no matter where I turned, the figures were there. Watching. Waiting. I screamed. No one answered, and then, in the center of the square, the fountain's eye began to glow, a pale green light, flickering like dying fire. The carvings twisted, screams echoed, screams that were not mine, yet they clawed at my mind. I fell to my knees, covering my ears, but I could not block them. And through the chaos, one thought pierced everything. This city is alive, not alive like you or I, but alive like a trap, patient, eternal, and hungry. I don't know how long I stayed there, paralyzed by fear, my mind straining against the impossible reality. And then, a child appeared, not one of the hooded figures, a real child, or at least it looked real. Pale, silent, with eyes that mirrored the fountain's twisted gaze. It reached out to me. Its hand was small, cold, impossibly cold. And the whisper returned, follow or remain. I had no choice. Something compelled me forward. My legs obeyed even as my mind screamed. And with each step deeper into the city, I felt a change, a subtle pull at the corners of my soul, a creeping sensation that I was being rewritten. Night fell quickly, though I'd tell if it was the sun or the city itself. The streets darkened unnaturally, and I realized I was no longer alone. Shadows moved with intent, forming shapes that suggested faces, laughter, and anger. They were the city's memory made flesh, and they were not pleased by my intrusion. Every building whispered secrets. Windows showed visions, families I had never met, lives I had never lived, mistakes I had never made, and all of them ended in pain. All of them screamed the same warning. Leave, before it is too late. But the child just smiled. And I understood, in a way too deep for words, that leaving was never meant to be an option. And so I walked, guided by that eerie, pale light, down streets that should not exist, through doors that should not open. The city stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of memory, despair, and forgotten horrors. And in the distance, I could see the tower, the central tower, where the city's pulse beat strongest. It called to me, and I could not resist. Somewhere deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. The curse was awakening, and I, like so many before me, had crossed the threshold into something that would not let go, until it had claimed me entirely. I stepped closer to the tower, drawn by that unnatural light, the child still ahead, gliding over broken cobblestones as if it were weightless. Its gaze never left me, and somehow I understood it knew the city far better than I could ever hope to. Every step I took seemed to echo forever. The streets had shifted again, forming loops and staircases where none should exist. Walls that had been cracked and rotted now pulsed, breathing slowly as if the city itself were alive. Shadows pressed in closer, murmuring, laughing, whispering secrets that made my stomach churn. Then I heard it, a sound beneath the whispers, a low grinding noise like stone scraping against stone, but deeper, older. Something massive stirred in the heart of the city, responding to my intrusion. My pulse quickened, and the child turned to me for the first time, its eyes reflecting the faint green glow of the tower. "Do you see now?" the child asked. Its voice was soft, but it carried an edge sharp enough to cut through my panic. I wanted to respond, to scream, to beg, but my mouth refused to form words. All I could do was follow. The first building I entered after the square was unlike anything I had seen. Its architecture was impossible, twisting and spiraling inward, with corridors that descended like a tunnel into the earth. The air smelled of damp earth and decay, with something metallic beneath it that made my stomach turn. As I walked, the walls seemed to watch. Faint scratches appeared along the plaster, words forming, fading, and reforming. The city remembers. The city hungers. You cannot leave. A figure flickered in the corner of my eye. I turned sharply. Nothing, but the sound of breathing, multiple breathings, filled the room. It wasn't my own. Then the child was gone. Panic surged. I called out, but the voice returned only as an echo, distorted. I ran blindly through the maze of hallways, doors appearing where none existed before, staircases leading to ceilings that should have been floors. And always, always, the whisper followed. You sought us. You belong. Finally, I reached a hall with dozens of doors lining either side. Each door was slightly ajar. Behind some, I saw shadows moving, shapeless forms that twisted unnaturally. Behind others, I glimpsed visions. Strangers screaming, people I had never met burning, drowning, or falling endlessly into darkness. I tried a door at random. It led to a small room filled with mirrors. But the reflections weren't mine. They were them. Hooded figures, eyes black as coal, frozen mid-step, their hands outstretched, reaching. And in one mirror, I saw the child standing behind me. Its smile was wider, more unsettling. A cold realization struck me. The city was feeding on memory, twisting it into horror. Every fear I had, every secret guilt, every hidden shame, it could see it, mold it, weaponize it against me. And then came the first voice that wasn't just a whisper. You were warned. I turned. The voice came from a doorway that hadn't been there before. I stepped inside, and the room dissolved into darkness. But it wasn't just darkness. It was a void that seemed to swallow sound, swallowing the very light from my flashlight, my lantern, my vision. My heart thudded painfully against my chest, and in that void, I saw them. Faces of those who had entered before me, their eyes hollow, their mouths frozen in eternal screams. Some reached out, as if to warn me. Some laughed silently, mockingly, and one face looked like mine. I blinked. It was gone, but the echo of a scream lingered. I ran. Not down corridors this time, but through streets that no longer resembled the square. Buildings leaned inward, cracking, as if trying to crush the world itself. The green light of the central tower pulsed, beckoning, hypnotizing, calling me forward. And yet, I could feel my body beginning to fail me. Weakness clawed at my limbs, my hands trembled, my vision blurred. I fell to the ground, gasping. The city's whispers became louder, voices overlapping into a cacophony. Do not leave! Remain with us. Join the forgotten. Then the child reappeared, kneeling before me. Its hand extended once more. This time the whisper wasn't just a sound. It was inside my skull, a command I couldn't resist. Take my hand, or stay forever. I did the only thing I could. I reached out. The moment our hands touched, the city shifted violently. Streets turned upside down, buildings elongated impossibly, and I was lifted as if weightless. My mind screamed, but the child's hand guided me through the chaos. Through streets I had never walked before, over bridges that bent impossibly, past windows that showed my deepest fears: isolation, betrayal, and the terror of being forgotten. Then we stopped. I was standing before the central tower. The door was impossibly tall, carved with symbols that burned faintly with that eerie green light. The child turned to me, eyes unblinking. Inside, it said. I hesitated. Every instinct in my body screamed to run. Every horror I had seen told me this was a trap, but I had come this far. And somehow, a part of me, terrified, broken, and foolish, wanted to know what lay inside. I opened the door. Inside was nothing. Or perhaps everything. A vast hall stretched beyond comprehension, walls fading into darkness, floors that reflected memories, ceilings that twisted like serpents. Hooded figures appeared from the shadows, forming a silent procession toward the center of the hall. And there it was, the source of the city's pulse, a great altar of black stone. On it lay a book, massive, bound in what looked disturbingly like human skin. Symbols glowed faintly across its surface. The air hummed with energy, and I could feel the city's eyes upon me, waiting, hungry. The child stepped forward. "It is time," it said. I approached the altar. My hands hovered over the A-book. And then, the city's memory poured into me. I saw every soul it had ever claimed. I heard their thoughts, their fears, their regrets. I felt their pain, their confusion, their terror. I realized then that the city didn't just trap bodies, it trapped minds, and the book was the key, a record of everything, of everyone, and of the curse that bound them all. And then a scream unlike anything I had ever heard tore through the hall. Not from me, not from the city, but from the child. The child's smile twisted into something monstrous, its form elongated, its eyes widening into that unnatural green glow of the fountain's twisted eye. "Now, you belong!" A force slammed into me. Darkness, light, shadow, fire. It all collided inside my skull. I screamed. My vision fractured into 1,000 shards, each reflecting the city, the people, the horrors. And then, silence. When my vision returned, I was still in the hall. But something had changed. I could feel it in my bones. The city was no longer just watching me, it was inside me. Every whisper, every shadow, every unseen eye was now part of me. And the child was gone. A new voice whispered, familiar and yet alien. "Welcome to the Forgotten City." I had crossed the threshold completely. There was no turning back, and the city waited. I stumbled through the hall, the cursed book still before me, though I didn't dare touch it again. The city's presence was suffocating, pressing against my chest, filling my lungs, infecting my mind. Every whisper, every shadow, every movement felt like a message, a warning, or a threat. The floor beneath me rippled subtly like liquid stone. I tried to step backward, but the hall stretched infinitely behind me, looping back on itself, forcing me forward. The walls shifted imperceptibly, their twisted carvings now seeming almost alive, writhing faintly in the dim light. Faces emerged from the stone, pressed flat, screaming silently, their eyes pleading. And then I heard the laughter. It was faint at first, a soft chuckle echoing off the walls. But it grew, layering into a chorus of voices, some high, like children giggling, others guttural, animalistic, all blending into a symphony of madness. I tried to cover my ears, tried to tell myself it was my imagination, but it was impossible. The city's laughter was inside me now, clawing at my thoughts, making reality fracture. I moved forward cautiously, guided by a faint green light that pulsed rhythmically from deeper within the hall. Every step made the shadows writhe, shifting like smoke caught in a wind that didn't exist. I began to notice shapes forming within the darkness, figures crouched in corners, half visible, eyes glinting like shards of glass. One figure stepped forward, tall, skeletal, hooded. Its hands were long and pale, ending in jagged, claw-like fingers. It raised one arm slowly, pointing toward the tower's upper chamber. A whisper followed. "You cannot escape what you sought." The voice wasn't threatening. It was inevitable. I understood then that the city didn't need to force me. I had already made the choice the moment I entered. The staircase spiraled upward like a serpent twisting into infinity. I ascended slowly, each step echoing unnaturally, multiplying into dozens of steps I hadn't taken. The walls were adorned with grotesque murals depicting the city's history, if it could be called that. I saw the city alive. Streets bending and twisting, citizens trapped in impossible contortions, screaming silently. Some faces looked familiar. I realized, with a shiver that ran straight to my spine, that the city remembered me, or at least it remembered what I feared. My own memories appeared in fragments among the murals. Childhood fears, betrayals I had committed, lies I had told. The city devoured them and spat them back in twisted form. At the top of the staircase, I reached a landing that opened onto a balcony. The view took my breath away. I could see the entire city sprawled beneath me, streets bending into impossible angles, buildings stacked on top of one another in ways that defied logic. The sky was a sickly green, swirling with clouds that seemed to move in pulses, reflecting the city's heartbeat. And there, at the far end of the balcony, I saw her. A woman. Pale. Elegant. With eyes like black mirrors, reflecting nothing and everything at once. She was sitting on the edge of a crumbling parapet, legs dangling over the void. Her smile was serene, almost welcoming, but utterly terrifying. "You've come far," she said, her voice soft but echoing through the city. "Few dare. Fewer survive." I wanted to speak. I wanted to ask who she was, what she wanted, but words caught in my throat. "Do you not understand?" she whispered. "This city, it takes, it feeds, it remembers, and you belong." The air shimmered. The city below twisted violently, streets breaking apart, buildings stretching impossibly high, folding back on themselves. I felt vertigo, nausea, fear so sharp it burned like acid in my chest. Yet I couldn't look away. Something inside me, the part the city had already touched, wanted to see it all, to understand the horror completely. I stepped closer to the woman. She stood, fluidly, as if gravity were nothing to her. Her eyes held mine. "The curse is old, older than the first brick of this city. It was born from greed, from envy, from fear. It thrives on memory and pain." I wanted to turn away. I wanted to flee. But the city itself had locked me in. Every corridor, every door, every shadow conspiring to keep me within its walls. Then the child appeared again. No longer innocent-looking, its small body elongated, its limbs twitching unnaturally. Its eyes glowed with the same green light as the tower. It ran past me, disappearing through a wall that should have been solid, leaving behind a faint trail of whispers. "The city waits, and you cannot leave." I realized then that the curse wasn't a single entity. It was a network, a consciousness made of the trapped souls, the city's memories, the twisted will of every person who had ever entered, and it had already begun to claim me. The woman raised a hand. The green light of the tower intensified. Shadows moved independently of their sources, forming grotesque shapes, faces, hands that reached out for me. I could hear my own heartbeat, a frantic drum against the city's pulse. The sensation was maddening, like the city wanted to sync with me, to become a part of my very being. "If you wish to survive," she said, "you must see it. You must witness the heart of the curse." Her words were command, but there was no choice. I followed her into a narrow corridor, walls covered in blackened vines that moved like snakes. They whispered names. My name, other names I didn't recognize, names of people who had vanished in the city decades ago. Every step felt like I was walking through someone's memories, absorbing fragments of lives that were not mine. I could see their pain, their regrets, their terror, and I could feel it. The city was learning me, studying me, turning me into another memory to trap others. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. The ceiling was impossibly high, vanishing into darkness. At the center was a pedestal. and upon it, the city's heart. A pulsating orb of light and shadow. Green, black, and sickly yellow, it hovered just above the stone surface, spinning slowly. Tendrils of shadow extended from it, reaching into every corner of the chamber, into the walls, and, I realized with horror, into the city itself. The woman spoke again. "This is the heart. It is the source. Every memory, every soul, every fear. It flows through here. It is what makes the city alive, and it hungers." I stared. I felt it pulling at me, calling to something deep inside, something primal. I knew the moment I reached toward it, I would become part of the city forever. And yet, curiosity, that fatal curiosity, surged inside me. I stepped forward. Shadows twisted violently, forming screaming faces, hands reaching out to clutch me. The air became thick, almost liquid, pressing against my chest, stealing my breath. Every step made the floor ripple, like walking on water. I felt my mind strain under the weight of the city's memories, the cries of those trapped, the endless hunger of the curse. I almost fell to my knees, my vision swimming, my body trembling uncontrollably. And then the woman placed her hand on my shoulder. "You are ready," she said softly. "See the truth, or be consumed." I reached toward the orb. The moment my fingers brushed its surface, the chamber exploded in light and shadow. Memories assaulted me. Faces of strangers, loved ones, betrayals, deaths I had witnessed, fears I had buried. The city spoke to me directly, 1,000 voices overlapping in a symphony of madness. Remember, forget, remain. Pain, confusion, terror, and through it all the faint, constant smile of the child, watching, waiting. I understood then. The curse didn't just trap the body. It didn't just twist reality. It rewrote the mind, devouring what made you human, until all that remained was a fragment of the city itself. I stumbled back from the orb, gasping, my mind teetering on the edge of collapse. The woman's eyes softened, almost pitying. "You are not yet lost," she said. "But the city tests all who enter. Only those who understand its heart survive, if they can." I looked around. The shadows writhed, the whispers intensified, and I realized that I had glimpsed only the beginning of the city's true horror. What lay ahead was deeper, darker, and more twisted than anything I had yet imagined. And the heart of the city was calling me further. The chamber pulsed with a living rhythm, a heartbeat that seemed to sync with my own. Every shadow stretched toward me, tendrils of darkness curling like fingers through the air. I could feel the city inside me now, crawling beneath my skin, pressing into my mind. The woman stepped aside. Her eyes glowed faintly green, reflecting the cursed light of the heart. "You have seen it," she said. "The heart of the city. Now you must face the trials." I wanted to ask what she meant. I wanted to run, scream, anything, but I couldn't move. Every step I had taken had been a step deeper into the city's will. Escape was impossible. "The trials," she continued, "will test everything you are, your fears, your regrets, your memory, even your soul. Fail, and you will become part of the city itself. Succeed. Perhaps you will leave, but only as one changed." The child appeared again, its pale body twisted unnaturally. Its smile had grown wider, more sinister. It darted around me, whispering words that I could barely hear. "Do you remember? Do you fear? Do you belong?" I tried to block the whispers, tried to scream, but the city's pulse drowned my voice. And then I felt it. The first trial. The chamber shifted. The floor melted beneath my feet into a black liquid, pulling me down. I struggled to stay upright, but the darkness clung to me, tugging at my memories. Faces appeared in the shadows, people I loved, people I hated, strangers, enemies, all calling to me, pleading, laughing, screaming. I realized the trial was simple and horrifying. Confront every fear, every regret, every shame, or be consumed. The first vision was my childhood home, but it was wrong. The walls were taller, warped, dripping black water. My parents were there, but their eyes were empty voids. I heard their voices distorted. You are nothing. You are weak. You cannot escape. Panic gripped me. I ran through the house, opening doors that led to impossible rooms. Each room revealed a new fear, a betrayal I had committed, a moment I had forgotten, but the city remembered. Each memory was magnified, twisted into something grotesque. The shadows of the city reached into each scene, touching the walls, the furniture, even me. And then the child appeared, floating above the floor. Face it, or become it. I felt my sanity slipping. Every fear, every regret, every memory was a weight pressing into my mind. I collapsed, gasping, and the city's voice whispered endlessly, "You belong, you belong, you belong." But in the chaos, I noticed something. A thread of light, faint and fragile, weaving through the darkness. My own memory, my own will, somehow resisting the city's pull. I clung to it with everything I had. Step by step, I moved forward. Shadows lashed out, trying to drag me back. Screaming faces reached from the walls, pulling at my arms, my legs, my soul. But I forced myself onward, toward the heart of the chamber, toward the pulsating orb. The second trial began as I approached the orb. The chamber exploded into visions of the city's past, centuries of greed, cruelty, and obsession. Entire families erased, streets collapsing, citizens turning on one another. The city had always fed on pain, on fear, on despair. And now, it wanted me to understand that I was next. I saw myself in every memory, my own failures, my own fears, my own moments of cruelty. The city had twisted them, amplified them, and thrown them back at me. I felt my body shaking, my mind teetering on the edge of collapse. And then the child's whisper cut through everything. Do you remember your choices, your sins? I nodded, even though I couldn't speak. The city's pulse intensified, a drumbeat inside my skull threatening to crush me. And then, the third trial began. I was no longer in the chamber. I was in a street I recognized, but it was distorted. Buildings bent unnaturally, streets looping into themselves. And everywhere I looked, I saw versions of myself. Some smiling, some crying, some screaming in terror. Each one reached for me, pleading for salvation, cursing me, accusing me. I realized the trial wasn't just about fear. It was about identity. The city wanted to erase me, replace me with a memory, a reflection of its own making. And I could feel it beginning, my own thoughts blending with the whispers, my own memories twisting into shadows. I screamed. The child appeared before me, eyes glowing, its smile impossibly wide. Choose who you will be, or become what you fear. I fought with every ounce of will I had. I clawed through the visions, holding on to my own memories, my own choices, my own identity. The shadows struck, the whispers screamed, the city pulled at my very being. Pain lanced through me, memories twisted into nightmares, and still I pressed forward. Then, silence. I opened my eyes. The chamber was still. The orb hovered in the center, pulsing faintly, and the woman stood beside it, calm, almost approving. "You survived the trials," she said. "But the city does not forget. It watches. It waits. You have learned, but it has not released you." I trembled, my body weak, my mind fraying. "What? What happens now?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Now. You choose," she said. "Step forward, claim the city's power, or step back and risk being consumed anyway." A tremor ran through the chamber. Shadows rose, forming figures taller and darker than anything I had seen. The city's pulse accelerated. matching the beat of my own heart. I realized then that the city had been testing me, yes, but it had also been preparing me to face something beyond fear, beyond memory, beyond life. The choice was mine. If this story has you on the edge of your seat, hit the like button now. Comment below which trial scared you the most, and don't forget to subscribe with notifications turned on. Next, we dive even deeper into the horror of the forgotten city. Are you brave enough to follow? I took a step forward. The orb's light flared, illuminating every corner of the chamber. Shadows writhed, the city's heartbeat accelerated, and the child appeared one final time before me. Its eyes burned green, its smile impossibly wide. "The city sees you now, truly sees you," it whispered. I felt a surge of energy, a connection I could not comprehend. The city's memories, its hunger, its pain, all flowed into me, and yet I clung to myself, my choices, my will. And in that moment I understood. Survival was not escape. Survival was becoming something new. Something the city had never seen before. The woman's voice echoed in the chamber. "Step into the heart, and you may yet leave. Fail, and you will remain forever." I swallowed, feeling the pulse of the city beneath my feet, around my bones, inside my mind. And then, with a deep breath, I stepped forward toward the glowing orb, toward the very core of the city's curse. The shadows recoiled, the whispers faltered, and for the first time, I felt power. The city had tested me, yes, but I had survived. And now, the real challenge was only beginning. The moment I touched the orb, the world fractured. Shadows splintered and reformed into grotesque shapes, twisting impossibly around me. The chamber pulsed, breathing with a rhythm that matched my own heart, and yet far deeper, older. Something ancient and unyielding. The city was alive, not in the way a living being is, but in a way that defied all understanding. Every stone, every shadow, every whisper in the air was a neuron in a vast, malevolent mind. And that mind was aware of me. I could feel its curiosity, its hunger, its desire. It had been watching me from the moment I arrived, measuring my fear, my courage, my will, and now it wanted something more. The child appeared again, circling me, its form flickering like a flame in the dark. It spoke, a whisper that echoed inside my skull. "You see now, we are one. You feel it, don't you? The city inside you? It's not an enemy, yet. But it will demand, it will claim, it will remake." I staggered back, trying to release my grip on the orb, but my hands were glued to its surface. I could feel the pulse of the city flowing through me, intertwining with my own heartbeat. Memories flashed violently before my eyes, my childhood, my failures, my fears. But they were not mine alone. They were every soul the city had ever claimed, every life it had ever swallowed. The chamber itself began to warp. Walls stretched infinitely. The ceiling disappeared into an endless void, and the floor melted into a river of black glass. Hooded figures emerged from the shadows, their hands reaching toward me. Each one whispered my name, pleading, accusing, mocking. "You will remain forever," they hissed. I tried to resist, but the city's pulse was overpowering. It wasn't just around me, it was inside me, entwined with my very essence. And then, the woman appeared again, hovering above the black river. "You are strong," she said softly. "Stronger than I expected. But strength alone is not enough. You must understand the city, or it will consume you." I swallowed hard, trying to focus. I forced myself to see the patterns, the pulse, the reason behind the chaos. The city was a living archive of every thought, every fear, every secret ever held within its walls. And it was asking me to witness it, to confront it, to accept it without being destroyed. The child darted forward, flickering in and out of existence. Its eyes burned green, almost blinding. "Witness or be forgotten. I closed my eyes and let the city pour into me. I felt centuries of fear, of pain, of rage, of obsession flowing into my mind. Each memory hit me like a tidal wave, threatening to drown my sense of self. Faces appeared, people I had never met, screaming silently, clawing at me, begging me to remember them, to acknowledge them, to carry their pain. And then I saw the tower itself, its twisted pinnacle stretching into the green, swirling sky. I realized with horror that it was not just a building. It was a living entity, a conduit for the city's will, its anchor, its heartbeat. The heart orb was just the beginning. The city's true power radiated from the tower, reaching outward, consuming everything in its path. The woman's voice cut through the chaos. To survive, you must climb. To survive, you must face the city's core. Only there will the curse reveal its final truth. My legs obeyed, moving toward the staircase that spiraled impossibly upward. Every step brought visions of despair, twisted streets, people lost in eternal torment, shadows reaching for me, memories blending with nightmares. Yet I pressed on. I had no choice. Escape was no longer possible. Survival required confrontation. As I climbed, the city's whispers grew louder. I heard laughter, screams, cries for help, murmurs of betrayal, and the constant, insistent repetition. You belong. You belong. You belong. My mind teetered on the edge. I could feel myself fracturing, dissolving, becoming part of the city. But somewhere, deep inside, I clung to my own identity, my own memories, my own will. I had to. And then I saw it, the apex of the tower. A door, black and impossibly tall, carved with symbols that pulsed with the same green light as the orb. Tendrils of shadow writhed around it, forming faces, hands, eyes, everything the city had ever consumed. And through them, I felt a presence, the consciousness of the city itself, waiting. The door opened without a sound. I stepped inside and found myself in a chamber of endless mirrors. Each mirror reflected me differently. One showed my childhood self, another my fears, another my failures. And in every reflection, the green light of the city pulsed, watching, analyzing, testing. This is the final trial, the child whispered from nowhere and everywhere. Face yourself, or be consumed entirely. I approached the largest mirror. My reflection stared back, eyes wide with fear, yet filled with recognition. And then the reflection spoke, my own voice, distorted and dark. You cannot survive. You are already part of us. I recoiled, but the mirror held me fast. Shadows reached through the glass, grasping at my arms, my face, my mind. The city wanted me to accept it, to surrender, to merge with its endless will. I screamed, trying to resist, but then a memory pierced through the chaos. My family, my friends, moments of joy, laughter, and warmth. Real memories, untouched by the city, untainted by fear. I clung to them desperately, and the shadows recoiled slightly, hissing and retreating. The child appeared once more, hovering before the mirror. Its smile had become something inhuman, wide and jagged. You cannot fight forever, but you can choose. Will you claim the city, or will you be claimed? I understood then what the woman had meant by understanding the city. Survival was not escape. Survival was comprehension, control, and choice. I could let the city consume me, or I could take its power and shape it. I reached out and touched the mirror. The green light flared, blinding me. Shadows shrieked and recoiled. And in that instant, I saw everything. The city's past, its hunger, its victims, its triumphs, its despair. And then I saw a path, a way to control it, to wield its power without being erased. With a surge of will, I grabbed it, pulling the city's pulse into myself, claiming it. Pain lanced through me, memories flooding my mind, voices screaming, shadows grasping, but I held firm. The city roared, testing me, threatening to tear me apart. And yet, I endured. I felt the child's presence fade, and the woman's voice echoed softly, "You have claimed it. For now. But remember, power comes with a price, and the city never forgets." The chamber stilled. The mirrors shattered silently, the shadows retreated, and the green pulse of the orb dimmed to a soft glow. I was alone, yet not alone. The city's consciousness now flowed through me, and I understood it. I could hear its heartbeat in my own chest. Its memories were my memories, its hunger, my hunger. I had survived. I had claimed the city's power. And yet, I knew the trials were not over. The city would test me again, always. But for the first time, I was no longer merely a victim. I was part of the city. And the city was, in some way, mine. The city was quiet. At least, quieter than it had been in centuries. The shadows no longer writhed aggressively. The whispers had dimmed into a low hum, pulsing with the rhythm of my heartbeat. But I could feel it, coiled and alive beneath my skin. The city's consciousness, flowing through me like a river of darkness and green light. I had survived the trials. I had claimed the city's power. And yet, I knew. This was only the beginning. The curse was not broken. It was mine now, and the city would always demand. I stepped out of the mirrored chamber into the central hall of the tower. The great orb floated silently above the pedestal, dimly glowing, its pulse echoing through the walls. The hooded figures that had once menaced me now knelt in stillness, as though acknowledging my authority. The woman appeared one last time, her form radiating calm, almost sorrow. "You have passed what none have endured. The city acknowledges you. But it does not forgive. It waits. Always." I asked the question that had haunted me since I first saw Aruvela. "Can I leave?" Her eyes glimmered faintly, like green fire. "You can leave the tower, but not the city. You carry it now. You are part of its pulse. And one day it will call you to act, or it will devour you entirely." I descended the tower stairs slowly, my footsteps echoing in the hollow hall. Every shadow seemed to bow as I passed. The city outside stretched infinitely, streets bending and twisting impossibly. Yet now, I understood it. Every alley, every building, every whisper, it was no longer alien. It was mine to navigate, mine to command, or fail to control. The child appeared one final time, hovering at the balcony of the tower. Its green eyes burned brighter than ever. "Remember this," it whispered, voice both innocent and cruel. "The city never forgets. Those who enter are never free." And with that, it vanished into the shadows, leaving me alone with the heartbeat of Aruvela. The city had changed me. My memories, my mind, even my body felt altered, sharpened, heightened, more aware. I could feel the presence of those the city had consumed, their whispers now faint echoes, part of a network I could sense but not be overwhelmed by. Yet the city's hunger remained, subtle but insistent. It would always want more. Souls, memories, fear. And I was its guardian, its inheritor, its prisoner and master all at once. I wandered the streets, now seeing paths and corridors I had never noticed. Streets folded onto themselves, buildings breathed. Shadows no longer feared me, they recognized me. I could feel the pulse of the city guiding me, urging me toward those who dared trespass. Those who sought the forgotten city, like I once did, would find me waiting. And I would decide their fate, to survive and become part of the city's consciousness, or to be consumed entirely, their fears, regrets, and memories woven into the city's heart. As I walked, I glimpsed fragments of my past, memories I had thought lost. They were clearer now, sharper, untwisted by the city's power. But mingled with them were the echoes of the souls the city had claimed, silent, pleading, watching. I realized something terrifying. The city was alive because it remembered. And now so did I. I had seen its past, endured its trials, claimed its power, but I had also inherited its curse. The horizon darkened as the green sky swirled overhead. The wind carried whispers, fragments of thoughts, cries of the lost. And yet, I was not afraid. I had survived. I had adapted. I had conquered in my own way the impossible heart of the forgotten city. But survival came at a cost. I was no longer entirely human, nor entirely city. I existed in the space between, a bridge between the living and the forgotten. And I knew. Someday someone else would arrive, drawn by curiosity, by greed, or by fate. And when they did, I would be there, waiting. I paused on a balcony overlooking the city's twisted streets. The orb's pulse throbbed faintly in the distance. Shadows moved with intent, bending and folding around the structures. And yet, the city felt alive in a new way. I could shape it now, guide it, perhaps even protect it from total chaos. But the child's final warning echoed in my mind. The city never forgets. And I understood. The forgotten city did not forgive. It did not release. It did not sleep. It remembered every soul it had claimed. And now, it remembered me. I turned from the balcony, walking slowly down the streets. My footsteps echoed not just in the empty corridors, but inside my own skull, synchronized with the city's heartbeat. Every shadow, every whisper, every pulse of light was mine to command, mine to endure, mine to live with forever. And somewhere deep inside, I knew the city would call again. I would answer. Because I was part of it now. Because the forgotten city never forgets. Because I am its curse, and the curse is eternal. If you survive this journey into the forgotten city with me, hit that like button. Comment below, would you dare enter Aruvela? And subscribe with notifications on because our next dark, twisted story is just around the corner. Remember, the city never forgets, and neither should you.